Today's date is August 14th. The year is 2012, and we're here in the Hyatt Regency on Maui. It's my pleasure to interview Judge Garr King in this brief video oral history and record hopefully some of your reflections and a lot of your life. So, Judge King, would you just say hello to all these folks who are about to have your history memorialized and state your name for us?
Okay, well, thank you. Hello to everybody or anybody that is going to view this, and I appreciate your doing this. Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah.
I'd like to start with just your childhood. If you could possibly take me back to just how you grew up as a child and maybe a little bit about your parents, Garr.
Okay, thanks. I was born in 1936 in Pocatello, Idaho. Our family came from Idaho initially, but I was about a year old when my parents moved to Salt Lake City, where my father was going to go to school. And so I grew up in Salt Lake City. I'm the oldest of seven. I have I'm sure I can remember how many brothers and sisters I have, but I have 3 brothers and 3 sisters.
Are you the oldest?
I'm the oldest.
How did your mom meet your dad? A dance, a party?
They went to high school together. Yeah. They were married when my mother was 16, and he was in high school, and she didn't finish high school at that point. She became a mother, stay-at-home mother, and then they moved to Salt Lake, as I said, a year after I was born.
So Salt Lake is really...
That's my home.
That's your home?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What brought you to Portland?
My wife is from Portland, and I met her when I was stationed at Treasure Island in San Francisco in the Marine Corps. She had graduated from high school and left Portland to move down to San Francisco with her sister and a friend, because she thought it would be a good experience for her, and that's what she did. So we met in San Francisco.
Love at first sight?
Yeah, well, I don't know about that. As a matter of fact, I had just made corporal, and I was AWOL that night. I had the duty in the barracks, and you know, you can always find somebody to take that for you. And we went into town, and there's a tavern we used to go to there, the Marines, and it was right below St. Boniface Star of the Sea Church, Catholic Church, and they were having a dance, and so we decided to go up there, and I met her at that dance. She knew my friend Tom Spear from Portland, so it was a coincidence, but a nice one.
What brought you to the United States Marine Corps? You graduate from high school?
No. You probably remember back in 52, 53, when the Korean conflict was going, we all kind of expected that we'd be drafted and we'd end up going. I didn't have any money for college or whatever. And so a buddy of mine and his brother was a Marine, and he talked us into joining the Marine Corps. And we both joined right after we turned 18.
How old were you? 18?
I was 18.
So you were legally of age.
Legally of age, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where'd you go, to Parris Island or San Diego?
No, I went to San Diego.
San Diego Recruit Depot.
Yeah, then up to Pendleton, and
then on to Treasure Island?
On to Treasure Island. Mm-hmm.
And once again, what was your duty on Treasure Island? What were you doing?
I don't know why they called them drafts, but the groups were coming home from Korea, and they would land at Treasure Island, and they had to be processed out. And I was wielding a pencil in those days, and spent almost a year there at Treasure Island, and then was sent to Atsugi.
Atsugi?
Yeah.
In Japan?
In Japan.
How long were you there?
I was there another year and a half, roughly. I was there until I got out.
Okay. And what year did you get out?
Got out in 57. I went in 54, got out in 57.
So you're a young man, you've got a high school degree, you've served in the Marine Corps for 3 years, and now what are you going to do?
Well, we got married right away and moved to Salt Lake City, my home. I started going to school at the University of Utah, was going nights and working during the day. And at some point, my brother-in-law in Portland told me about Northwestern College of Law. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's a law school that used to be the University of Oregon Law School. The University of Oregon Law School was moved to Eugene, and Judge John Gantenbein bought the law school and operated it as a private law school. And you could get in there without a degree if you had enough background. So I started, at that point we had 2 children and I was still going to school nights. And so we moved to Portland because my wife wanted to get back to her home, Portland.
Did she have family there?
Yes.
And what part of the city did they live in?
They lived in the east side, both the north side and the east side.
Both in the east, okay.
Yeah.
So now you're going to night school, you're working, you've got 2 children, you have a wife, and law school comes along.
Right.
That's a pretty large order.
Well, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
so you start law school, and where was the law school located? Is it along the Willamette
Downtown
River?
Portland.
Downtown?
Yeah.
Near Portland State or that location?
It's a little bit farther north. It's north of Portland State. I mean, on a line with Portland State, but north about 4 or 5 blocks.
And 3 years of law school?
No, 4 years.
4 years.
Yeah, we went nights. Everybody in the school was working and going nights, and it was a 4-year program.
When you graduated, what happened next?
I was hired by the district attorney's office and became a deputy district attorney in Portland.
So you're state prosecutor?
State prosecutor in Multnomah County.
Multnomah County, Multnomah County Courthouse.
Yeah.
Can you remember some of the judges that were?
Oh, sure. But first, I'll tell you, I had 5 children when I graduated from law school. We're Catholics.
Well, I think you had to be successful right away.
Well, the reason I went to work for the DA's office, they paid more than anybody else for new lawyers.
Yeah.
And that's because they had a tough time and a bad reputation, and the new DA wanted to, he said he wanted to hire some better lawyers than he'd had before, and he got the county commissioners to kick it up. And so it paid more than any other law job there.
Can you give me an idea the size of the district attorney's office when you joined?
Probably a dozen lawyers.
And how long did you stay in the district attorney's office?
3 years.
Tell me about your career. What were you doing for those 3 years?
Well, I started out doing child support. You know, it's where they started the new lawyers, and you would bring actions against individuals who hadn't paid child support. You could do it civilly or criminally, and I did that for about 6 months. And then I got a regular docket of cases to try, criminal cases. And the last month, I got transferred to the civil side. The DA's office in Multnomah County at that time was the lawyer for the county civilly as well as the prosecuting attorney. And I got transferred to the civil department and did that for a year before I left.
With all of that trial experience and with a growing office, why did you decide to leave the district attorney's office?
I got a call from Bill Morrison, who, do you remember that name by any chance?
Yeah.
Yeah, well.
But tell our audience who that person is, very well known.
Bill Morrison was a lawyer, trial lawyer, and he was the lead trial lawyer in the firm of McGuire, Shields, Morrison, Bailey, and Kester. Bill decided, I don't know if Bill decided, but the trial lawyers decided to break away from the civil side of that law firm, and they needed a couple more lawyers, so I got a call from Bill Morrison asking if I'd be interested in going to work there.
What was his selling point? He must have said, "Hi, I'm Bill, and I'd like you to go to work for me, and here's the reason why." It must have been your trial experience, I would
Yeah,
imagine.
it was. I mean, in the DA's office, we would try cases one after the other. You know how that goes. You finish one case, and while they're deliberating, you go and pick a jury in another case.
So you had that comfort of the courtroom, didn't you?
Yeah, I tried one year. I think I tried over 40 jury cases.
Yeah, that's maybe something that happens with state practitioners at the federal
Yeah,
U.S. Attorney's Office sometimes doesn't have the same
that's right.
ability to
Yeah.
get, unfortunately. When you went over to that firm, what did Bill have you start doing?
Just start trying cases right off the bat. There's a good lawyer in the firm by the name of Tom Cooney, who was one of my mentors, and Tom sat through a couple of trials with me in the back of the courtroom, and watched me try the cases, and then I just started getting a regular docket.
What about business? Were you able to bring business into that firm also as you progressed with that firm? Or did they just keep putting you right back into trial work?
I think, I can't say that I brought any business in because we were doing a lot of insurance defense work,
Okay.
and Bill Morrison was the lawyer for an insurance company that was our primary client. You pick up some work now and then, but I wasn't bringing much work in at the beginning.
So you had the clients, they needed litigation experience to service those clients, didn't they?
That's right, yeah.
Okay. How long did you stay with the firm?
I stayed with the firm until '71. I had started in the DA's office in, let's see, '57, and so it would have been about 7 years roughly. Yeah, DA's office 3 years. No, all right, yeah, DA's office 3 years, Morrison and Bailey another 4, 5 years.
How about your family? Are you still 5 children, or is it expanding?
Well, we ended up with 7.
7.
Yeah.
So there's 2 more children
2 more.
in that period of time in your life.
Well, no, the youngest was 14 years younger.
I see.
Yeah. And,
Okay.
yeah.
So when you left that law firm, where did you go?
What did I do?
When you left the law firm eventually, where did you go?
Well, a fellow by the name of Jack Kennedy was the registrar at the law firm that not the law firm, the law school. And I tried a case against him one time, and after the trial, he offered me a job. So I went to work with Jack. He was well known as a fine trial lawyer, and he practiced by himself. He had one young lawyer working for him. So he suggested we set up a partnership, and we did.
Where were your offices?
Standard Plaza building in
In
Portland.
downtown Portland?
Downtown Portland,
Okay.
yeah.
So there's your circle of experience, your professional life, law school,
Yeah.
DA's office, law firm with
Law
Morrison,
firm.
and you're right back downtown with Jack.
Yeah, that's right.
And what were you doing?
Oh, we did, I continued doing a lot of insurance defense work, but Jack had done maritime work. And we had a pretty broad practice, but we were primarily trial lawyers. And I can remember, it scares me now, one time I prepared a public offering for a bunch of doctors. now, I sure wouldn't do that again. There's just a malpractice claim running with it when you would do something like that. But we like to think we could do most legal work.
I don't think a lot of our audience that views this in the future will really understand Portland in those days, that it was a really maritime city in the sense with the Willamette River meeting the Columbia and right out to the Pacific Ocean. And tremendous commerce coming in the cities those days.
Right, at that time it was.
And the lumber industry was still booming.
At that time,
And we still had salmon in the Columbia, didn't we?
We do, yeah. And we're trying to make sure that we still have salmon in the Columbia today. We have a couple of cases involving the Columbia River salmon.
Yeah, in every part of the country we seem to get a different local expertise, and
Yeah.
I know that you've dealt a lot with some of the projects up there in your professional career and in the
Right.
federal court. How long were you with Jack?
I was with Jack until he died. Well, that isn't quite right. I was with Jack until I went on the bench.
Okay.
So it was 27 years or something like that.
And-
Pretty close to 30 years.
And when you went on the bench, federal court?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you're taking a jump from two-person practice to the United States Federal District Court.
Yeah.
Now, they either had to discover your brilliance, or there must have been something that happened in here, and a combination of both from what I read. So tell me how this occurred.
Well, we had basically a trial firm, and at times we had up to as many as 12 lawyers. We never wanted to get big. We always said we wouldn't get any bigger than 5 or 6, but we got up to about 12 lawyers. And I was a lawyer representative for 3 years, and I thought that was a pretty good job to have, and I mean, a federal judge would be a pretty good job to have. So I put my name in for a magistrate's position.
Right.
In fact, I had chaired the committee that picked the magistrate, Ashmaskus, Don Ashmaskus. I chaired that committee, and we selected Don because he was a great guy and a really good judge. But in any event, I put my name in for the next position and didn't get it. And so I put my name in for the next Article 3 position that came up, and ended up being in the final 4 of that. I just decided it sounded like a good job. I'd done well practicing law. My kids were at that point pretty well grown and gone and working, and we'd gotten them all through school. So it was, it was open for me to do that financially. So in any event, I made the final 4, but I didn't get it. Ann Aiken was selected for that spot. And then the next time it came around, I put my name in again, and I didn't make the final 5. And I won't go into the details of it, but eventually the Senator Wyden dropped the whole list and went through the process again.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, and it was Senator Wyden then eventually
Senator Wyden,
who
yeah.
recommended you to the president.
Yes. Uh-huh. Yeah.
What year was this?
Okay, 1998 was the year I was sworn in, and I think it took about 7 or 8 months to go through the process. I was sworn in April 30th of 98.
Of 98.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And you would then be you would have been appointed by Clinton, President Clinton.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was also, so I
Oh,
was
good
over
for you.
here.
Yeah, okay.
A little bit behind you.
I do like to tell you that I had never met either of the senators before. Number one, Wyden interviewed me in Portland, and then Smith was the other senator. First time I saw him was at the confirmation hearing. so I'd never been involved in politics, and so I like to mention that because I think I got recommended and passed and so forth because I had a lot of trial experience. I've been a trial lawyer.
Garr, did they give you any notice? I mean, usually they give us 2 days' notice to get on the plane and get to the hearing.
That was about it.
How about your wife? Were you able to get
Oh
your
yeah,
wife back?
my wife was there, and several of my children, and my brother was there. We had a good crowd there. For me, the nomination process was, other than the fact that you worried about it a little bit, was really fun. I enjoyed it.
Did your wife enjoy it?
Yep. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how many children, were you able to take some of the children back to see
Yeah.
that process?
Yes. Uh-huh.
That's a lifetime memory for you.
Yeah, it is. I remember being in the Senate confirmation room with the newspaper photographers laying on the floor. Whatever. It was a lot of fun. That's all I can say.
When you took the oath, obviously you're going to be in Portland, not Eugene.
Yeah.
And I don't know if a lot of our listeners know, but there are 2 courts in Oregon, one centered in Eugene, but the big court is obviously Portland, which is the largest city along the Willamette. And you're coming into the federal family, somewhat the way I did from a state litigation background. Tell me your thoughts going in.
Well, you know, I can remember sitting up on the bench on my first trial and just looking down there as the lawyers are presenting their case and doing things, and thinking, boy, this is fun. And it really was, you know. You just have a great feeling when you reach that particular point. And so, yeah, that's, you know, that's really my overwhelming feeling as I went, you know, started learning what to do. And I had still have a couple of really great law clerks, and the one law clerk was experienced, and that helps a lot, as you know.
Well, you must have had a natural feeling and comfort level with the courtroom as a litigator. So many of us come from different backgrounds, academic, some are litigators. We all get to the federal court in different ways. Is that the case, though? Is that just an assumption on my part, or did you really have a comfort level for litigation?
I like to tell people, I tried cases for 34 years as a lawyer, and I think I learned something there. You have, you know, quick and natural reactions.
Right.
You've been there, and you've seen it maybe in a different forum, but I always felt comfortable there.
I know that I've always thought that it's the one place I couldn't hide. I was exposed to the public for the good and the bad, because you're making split-second decisions on the bench, and that's litigation.
It is.
Tell me about some of the interesting cases, and they may not be notorious cases, but some of the interesting cases that you just can reflect upon.
Well, there's been a lot. There were a lot as a lawyer, which I tried and enjoyed.
And let's go back into those lawyer days for a moment before we jump back into federal court, because some of those cases that you might have really enjoyed when you're practicing.
Well, the one I remember, I was a relatively new lawyer at the law firm, and Bill Morrison was going to try a case up in Hood River, and he was going to defend Harvey Aluminum, which had been dropping fluoride on all of the orchards there in that area. And they were suing Harvey, claiming Harvey ruined their cherry crops. So Bill had me take a deposition of the named plaintiff in the first case, and he was ready to try the case. We got up there to Hood River and found out Bill wasn't really ready to try the case. So we worked from morning till 1 a.m. or so forth, getting that case ready. As it turned out, Bill made the opening statement, and I put on all the witnesses. And I'd only been in that law firm for a short time. But let me tell you a quick story. We were trying that case, and there was I forget what you call the weathermen, the professional name for weathermen's, because they were, well, because they were talking about the weather and what effect it had on it and so forth. And the guy really had hurt us, and Bill and I had talked before, and he said, well, you know, don't get into that with him. And I said, Bill, we gotta do this. The guy's just killed us. We've got to ask him this. No, you said you shouldn't do that, and so forth. And I said, Bill, we got to do it. Okay, go ahead. I asked him, got the wrong question, and he leaned over to me in a stage voice and said, well, what are you going to do now, you smart son of a bitch? And, he laughed a little bit. But, you know, those are the things you remember.
A life-changing experience for litigation lawyers.
I defended a lot of lawyers in later years. I defended medical malpractice cases. Then I started doing a lot of commercial work. At one time, I think I had going in federal court something like 11 class action securities cases where I was defending, for the most part, professionals, lawyers and accountants. So I got a fair amount of experience in federal court and tried a number of cases over there.
11 class actions are a lot
A
of
lot of work,
cases
yeah,
to
yeah.
be carrying as
Well,
counsel.
these were local new offering cases, and so they weren't, they weren't like some of the big ones that you see now. But it's a lot. Yeah, we had a lot going.
Now, by that time, where have you moved? Where in Portland are you? I don't want to know your address or anything like that, but just general area.
We grew up. I raised the kids over on the east side of. I raised them. My wife did most of the raising, but we raised them over on the east side of Portland in Laurelhurst.
Okay.
Our boys went to Central Catholic High School, and our girls went to St. Mary's High School. They're reasonably close there.
Well, now we're back to federal court. I'm going to fast forward you a little bit and just some of the cases that you enjoyed or found particularly interesting.
Okay. Well, the first really big case I had was a case called Capital Consultants, and the owner of Capital Consultants had built quite a reputation as an investment advisor to pension funds, union pension funds, and he had a slug of them. As it turned out, he had a Ponzi scheme going too at the same time, and things just, everything went to hell on him, obviously, and a lawsuit was filed, and actually the receiver was appointed, and then a lawsuit was filed. And I walked out to the courtroom the day that we had our first status conference, and there were 60 lawyers in that courtroom. And I basically said, this is not what we're going to do. We're not going to have 60 lawyers spending money on this case. And so we got things a little bit in order, and then I got Ed Levy to mediate the case. You know Ed.
Oh, absolutely.
Ed worked on it. We kept it going legally, but Ed worked on that for years, and eventually we got the case settled for about all of the people who lost money got about 65% of their money back, and that's because we kept the attorney's fees down. We kept them moving. The settlements came primarily from the professionals again, the lawyers, the accountants, that type of thing. So. That case, I've still got a little bit of it hanging on with a fight over the IRS, but it was filed in 2000, and I went on the bench in '98, so that was about my first big case. And then Malcolm Marsh, you know Malcolm.
Sure.
Malcolm asked me if I would take from him the case of USA versus Oregon, which was the case about the salmon take by the Indians, how much their take would be from the salmon run each year. And there had been a lot of litigation over that.
Now, was this up along the Dalles, up
Yeah.
along the Columbia with
Yeah.
the fishing nets and the
Right.
historical Indian
Yeah.
rights up there? Okay.
Yeah, and we, over the next couple of years, put together a 10-year agreement with the various tribes, and that's in effect. In fact, one of the attorneys for one of the tribes is here today. His wife's a lawyer rep, and he was telling me they managed to well, I know they have because they haven't come back to court, managed to agree every year on the problems so forth. So we got that one taken care of. But they're a slug of cases. A good case I had not long ago involved Adidas with their three-stripe brand. They sued Payless Shoe Store, the nationwide shoe company.
Is it a copyright violation?
Copyright violation. We tried that case. The jury gave Adidas $350 million. I reduced it down to $65 million. And believe it or not, the Adidas settled it for roughly what I had for the remitter figure that I had set.
So it went to trial?
It went to trial, yeah, we tried it.
How long a trial?
It was about a 3-week trial. And then I had a 2-month Walmart trial where they were, the allegations were that they were forcing the employees to work off the clock. And that was a collective action as distinguished from a class action. And we tried the liability side of it for a month, and then the employees won, and then we tried the damage side for a month, and be darned if they got a total of $100,000 after all of that. The attorneys ended up with $1.5 million, but they just couldn't show that much damage. So,
Looking ahead, what would you like to do with the rest of the time when you're on the bench? If you had a dream, a goal, something that you're looking forward to, what would that be?
You know, I'm a little up in the air at this point. I had previously made a decision that I was going to maintain a half a load, both civil and criminal. And I started taking a lesser civil load and a lesser criminal load to get down to that point. What I'm finding is I've got a bunch of bad cases, including a terrorist case, that is keeping me from getting down to 10%. So I really want to work to get down to about 10%. I've been thinking I've got 13 grandchildren, and I can spend a lot of good time visiting them and doing some things. But I intend to continue working on a schedule that'll probably be about half-time.
Some of your mentors, some of the people, you already mentioned Judge Levy, who's we all know and love. And
Oh, yeah.
any other mentors out there that you really appreciated during your time on the bench so far?
Well, I mentioned Jack Kennedy, and he was a very good trial lawyer, and we had a great partnership and a great practice together. Tom Cooney, Tom was just a wonderful Irishman who was a good trial lawyer and a lot of fun, and he's been he was a mentor of mine during that time. He's just a good guy, good trial lawyer. Otto Scopel, who you'll remember, we had a good relationship too. Although we didn't, we never really, he was down in Salem and I was in Portland. We had some cases together before he went on the bench. But over time we just had what you'd call an enjoyable relationship. I don't know that he was a mentor, but Otto, obviously.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about Portland and just you've been a fixture there for so long. Litigation, family, raising children there. Tell us about Portland, how that city's changed, how it stayed the same.
Well, Portland is a very comfortable town.
Yeah.
And I use the word town. It's a pretty good sized city, but you think of it, at least I do, more as a town. It's not nearly as big as Seattle. And it's a little less sophisticated, but people seem to be a little easygoing, a little more easygoing. They care about lots of things other than making money and so forth. The problem for Portland now is we've just about lost the timber industry because they're not cutting anymore, and a lot of that is the environmental issues that have occurred over time. They still have a fishing industry, but it's gone down quite a bit too. They've got a huge high-tech industry, and they've really, Intel is their biggest employer, and I forget how many thousands of people Intel employs now, but those jobs are pay a little less.
Well, I've got to ask, are you Oregon State or Oregon fan?
We're both. I have a daughter who graduated from Oregon State. I had a son and a daughter who graduated from Oregon, and I have a grandson at Oregon now. So.
Oh, that's fabulous.
But I prefer Oregon State.
That's fabulous.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to ask you if there's anything that comes to mind that I've forgotten to ask you, or you just like to comment upon, Garr?
Gosh, David, I can't really think of much. All I can tell you is that I've been awfully lucky, really, to be where I am. I think back on it. I left high school to join the Marine Corps, I was working. I had a good job there. I had a brokerage firm, and that phone call from my brother-in-law just was something that, okay, why not? My wife's not happy with Salt Lake anyway, and so I was lucky to get into law school and to graduate, and then I was fortunate enough to have a good career with good people. And then I get on the bench. I like to quote, I forget who it was, a district judge from the South who said, you know, he said, after being a trial lawyer, being a district judge is like eating paid to eat ice cream. And he's right.
Well, I'm gonna embarrass you a little bit. I've known you for a long time, and certainly known of you. But I'm just going to read to you, and I don't go away and don't blush too much. But the comments about you are very bright, very good reputation, fabulous judges, and these are from the people that we care about the most. Efficient, let you try your case, bring your A game to his courtroom. All the accolades show that as great a judge as you are, it's the affection that the lawyers have appeared in front of you that really reflected in all the comments about you. And I just want to say what a pleasure it's been for me.
Well,
I'm very honored to interview you.
You know, I've always gotten along well with the lawyers, and I would say, and pass this on to other judges too, I still go to all the lawyer things. I go to the Multnomah Bar and meetings and so forth, and I try and stay close to the lawyers. I think we need to do that. Yeah. I think that we learn, and they feel much better about us too. And so I try not to forget how tough it is to be a trial lawyer. And so
hard profession.
Yeah, it is, but a good one.
Judge King, thank you very much.
Well, thank you.